Hello there! Welcome to Heartpanorama, a podcast that will take you on a journey through aspects of everyday life, such as personal development, life hacks, and other relatable topics. My name is Michelle, and I'm excited to share some of my thoughts with you in this podcast series. While I talk about today's topic, I'm mentioning certain brands, products, or services. Any form of product placement in this podcast solely serves discussion purposes and is not paid or sponsored in any way. Like I announced in the last regular podcast episode, today's podcast topic is once more based on an article I wrote on my blog. This one is from 2016 and was titled The Fandom Phenomenon. Just like in the previous podcast episode, I'm going to read out paragraphs from my own blog article and comment on them step by step. If you'd like to read the full article, I'll link to it down below in the description, but listen to this podcast episode first. My fandom experience is mostly based on the Sailor Moon and Miraculous fandom, as you might know if you listened to my introduction podcast. And my blog article isn't just about the aspect of fandoms in general, but also touches the topic of making friends online. Let's get started with the first paragraph. You should know I haven't always been so open to other people online. I only really started engaging in the so-called fandoms in summer 2014. That was about when I rediscovered one of the series that played an important role in my childhood, Sailor Moon. So I found myself interacting with other people on the internet, particularly on Twitter in this case. I realized that there were so many other people my age or older that enjoyed the series, and they were also kind to each other. This was my first real experience with a huge fandom. It felt great to be able to exchange opinions with people who like the same things with you. I could talk to them about things I wouldn't be able to talk about to some of my offline friends. First off, this paragraph contains aspects I already discussed in the other blog article that I reinterpreted in my previous podcast episode, and check out the episode The Inner Child for this. I'm going to leave these aspects out here and focus more on other points instead. So yes, online fandoms are a great thing when it comes to finding people who are as enthusiastic about a topic as you are, be it a movie, series, book, celebrity, or anything else. Of course, you can also discuss said things with your friends offline, but at some point they might get bored, and you often don't have as many friends obsessed with the same topic as you have mutuals on social media. So that brings us to the next paragraph. This is something that has changed part of my personality drastically in the past year. I had always been suspicious of finding friends via the internet. Those people are complete strangers, I had thought. But over time, I actually started talking to a group of people more frequently, and we formed an awesome squad. Online friends can be just as real as offline friends. Yes, they can indeed. So 4 years ago, I had that one online squad, and now I have at least 2 or I think even 3. And I talk to them on a regular basis, and it's not weird at all because they're just humans, and I talk to them just like I would with friends I know offline that I also talk to online. And I still remember I was very paranoid back then and didn't trust anyone online that I haven't met in real life yet, which seems ridiculous to me now. I think it's really interesting what I wrote in my next paragraph. You know, sometimes I sit down and consciously think about what your points of view would be like. We often forget that we are strangers to others ourselves. It feels weird to me that other people might perceive me the way I perceive them. But that makes me realize you're all just human beings, just like me. Just because we met on the internet doesn't mean I can't build a friendship with you like I do with people in the offline world. After all, the internet is an amazing innovation to enable people all over the world to stay in touch with each other. It is indeed, and I think that every one of us who hasn't grown up with the internet had to get used to new circumstances and possibilities. And realizing that I'm a stranger to others on the internet too helped me a lot when I first tried opening up to others online. Let's see what I wrote in the next paragraph. Although I'm still aware there are dangerous people looking for victims via different social media platforms, I have learned that it's ridiculous to think of all the people on the net like that. Coming back to the topic fandoms, it's an awesome opportunity to engage with your peers via social media. I believe fandoms can also exist offline, but I don't know if they would be as huge as on the internet, mostly because people in offline groups can only interact with each other when they meet face to face. Come to think of it, the thing that comes closest to a fandom offline might be your school. For example, when the Harry Potter movies came out and everyone freaked out because literally everyone was a fan, or with other movies or series that were hyped a lot. I think the experience that comes closest to the internet fandom hype for me is when I was back at school, where I had so many classmates or schoolmates who talked about the same topic, and that was somehow a mini fandom, but of course online it's way bigger. And here I have one more paragraph I picked from my blog article. I want to give one last advice to anyone who wants to find online friends. Be open to interacting with others online. Don't be too afraid, but still be careful who you talk to. Especially if you are underage, you shouldn't just meet up with strangers who you've only talked to online and don't even know what they look like. This part is essential. If you feel like interacting with others online, go for it. What is there to lose? But just be careful with what information about yourself you reveal to people. Get to know people step by step and don't tell them everything about you right away. Especially about your location. Be vague about your whereabouts at the beginning. You can reveal details later, when you know them better and trust them. Same goes for your last name, of course. That should go without saying. I won't go into detail here because this is not the topic of today's episode, but just act reasonably, please. Now let's summarize. I still think it's amazing how you can find new friends through shared interests online, and it's a great feeling when there's new content you can freak out about together. On the downside, I've realized now that I'm almost 5 years into the fandom stuff, fandoms can also be exhausting. For one, the bigger and the more active the fandom is online, the more likely you will come across individuals who are rather difficult to deal with. And also sometimes this dulls your enjoyment of the interest overall. And that's actually sad because it started with something that you really enjoyed and other people kind of spoil the experience for you. And it depends on you if you want to leave the fandom or not, but this is just something that I realized, and some of my friends who are also admins of different fandom accounts realized as well. I'm completely honest here. When I was 22, I was still super enthusiastic about fandoms, but I've come to realize that you have to distance yourself from it from time to time, or else you'll go nuts. And this especially applies to me and my friends who administrate fandom accounts on social media, where you really get to interact with all kinds of fans. If you're interested in reading my full blog article that I talked about here, check out the link in the description. Also, please comment below. Are you engaging in fandoms online too? What is your experience? Have you found friends there who share the same interests? I'm looking forward to reading about your points of view. That was today's episode of heartpanorama. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, please give it a like and leave a comment. Stay tuned for upcoming podcast episodes by subscribing to my channel and activating the notification bell. Check out the links in the description to find out where else you can find me and my podcast. Have a nice week and take care. Until next time, bye!